On this week's episode of Damsels in the DMs.
Dear Damsels, I've been struggling to find what I'm passionate about, and I don't even know where to start. How do I find out what career I'm going to be happy in and also make a decent living at the same time? Do I go to college and rack up student loans instead? How do I manifest something when I don't even know what I want? Thanks. Struggling to find myself. This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
There's some damsels in the DM.
Yes, queen.
Tell us what's the vibe. There's some damsels in the DM. Please tell us what's the vibe. DMs, yeah we see them, yeah we read them. DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Damsels in the DMs. I'm Ash.
And I'm Alejandro.
So today we have George Maple, who is one of my dear friends. She's in Australia. She's an artist, just an all-around beautiful human being. And this was a great episode. What did you think about it, Alejandro?
I am absolutely obsessed with George Maple. Oh my goodness. Listening to her music is one thing, but hearing about not only her creative process and diving into writing and balancing projects with dating and just life in general, I was in awe. I cannot wait for the listeners to hear everything that she has to say.
Yeah, you guys are gonna basically step into the mind of a creative genius.
Yes.
And I don't call anyone a creative genius, but I definitely think that she is one. And just this conversation is so amazing, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen to it. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. George, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're
Fantastic.
good. I've been waiting to have you on this podcast because when we met through a mutual friend who is a very good friend of mine, and we automatically clicked. I think, your energy was just so, I think we were on like the same vibration that night, and your energy was just so powerful, and I was very drawn to you, and I was like, I need her to be my friend. Like automatically, like I gave her a hug, and I am a hugger, but I kind of, now I'm trying to like protect that energy that I give out to people, but I automatically was like, give me a hug.
Yeah, I felt the same 100%. That was that was New Year's Eve. That was very
Yeah.
special.
Oh yeah, we spent.
Spend New Year's Eve together. Yeah.
Yes, that was
Well, for
amazing.
the listeners who don't know much about George Maple, George, can you share a little bit with us who you are and how you came to be in this musician world that you are now in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I had a very sort of like humble upbringing. I lived in a beach town in Sydney, Australia. And I don't know if it was kind of the isolation of we're quite far away from the city and far away from things. It's very sort of, I don't know, there's water and there are trees and there's houses sort of perched in that landscape. And I think I, as a kid, just had a really vivid imagination. And so I would write songs and I would write plays with my cousin, because she lived with us at the time. She was like my best friend. And then I think when I figured out that you could actually pursue that kind of passion for your life, I dedicated myself to it really early. Like I think I was about 9 when I wrote my first song, and then 11 when I entered my first songwriting competition. And then it just kind of evolved, it has twists and turns. And then I ended up being lucky enough to, make it into a career. And then from there, that it transitioned from songwriting behind the scenes to becoming the artist myself. And then I figured out that you can explore other mediums as an artist beyond, music is always a central thread for the things that I create. But I became really fascinated with storytelling in different mediums. So whether that was like a live production, or it was a film, or it's mixed reality. The gates are opening even wider at the moment, because there's all of this stuff going on in the metaverse, and there are all these new ways of experiencing entertainment. And so I just became really fascinated with the concept of storytelling, and realized that in order to explore my the full scope of my own artistic sort of expression and vision, was that could not really limit myself to just music. I needed it to be more expansive. And so that's kind of where I am now and where it's come from. So music has always guided the way, and then it's ended up in these new mediums, and now it's sort of a free for all. I'm inspired. Actually, it's funny. I think that my friends often talk about being, my other artist friends, we talk about being inspired by the muse, and that's not necessarily like a person. That's an energy, you're kind of like a conduit. I learned about that word the other day. You're sort of a channel for all of these messages that need to come through. I mean, most of the time I'm so unconscious when I'm writing. It's not like I don't sit down. It'd be quite a weird and boring thing to watch, because it's not like I'm sitting down and writing what I want to say. It's something that I sort of receive, and I don't know, it just comes out. I've never quite been able to like explain it or understand it, but I feel very lucky to have built a really strong relationship with that part of myself to allow it to come through as clear as possible. And the more that I refine that, the more I find there are these magical things that happen. So I guess that's been my journey up until now, and it continues, you know.
That's amazing that it sounds like it's been with you your whole life, but you're now able to put into words, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny I was talking to a friend about that yesterday, about how I didn't realize it wasn't normal that when you would listen to music, you would see images. And she was like, no, that's not normal. I was like, oh, that's what's happened my whole life. Because I listen to music and I'm like, oh, this is happening. And then I'll see like a symbol of a panther. And then I'll see like a dark, dingy room or something. And I realized that that's a part of the gift that I guess that I've been given in this lifetime, is to explore that. And I think the more that you embrace that, and the more that you're like, yes, I have been given a gift, and it's not even a part of you anymore. It's like you're lucky enough to explore and to express through that particular gift that you've been given. It's quite a journey. It's a never-ending story, I guess.
It is a never-ending journey. I feel like when I was listening to, it was Cold Water from Myth, I honestly felt like I was listening to like thunderous clouds pulsing against my ears, with like these snare elements that created like this ideal soundscape that almost felt like I was like feeling the sun kind of just like heat my skin. It was so I totally feel what you're describing, because listening to it, like I am transported and I can see exactly what you were describing, just like different pieces like coming to life in a really cool way.
It's this really beautiful, I call it like an elemental process. I don't know if that's if that's an appropriate word, but it's like you're able to lock into, and because like when I work with other artists as well. Like I love working with other artists from a collaborative standpoint, but also working to help facilitate their vision. Because I think that's something that I've also learned is quite easy for me to be able to kind of like jump into their skin and be like, okay, where is their essence, and to be able to connect with that. And you'll find that there'll be a completely different soundscape for, a particular project. I was talking about this yesterday, actually, about, some soundscapes require this intensity and this fire and this masculinity, and therefore you'll choose certain sounds that are appropriate for that, and you'll choose certain settings. And it's like creating these little mini worlds. And I think the sonic side of things is what guides a lot of that process. But it's really nice to be able to jump into these different skins and work within other people's energies as well. So it's amazing that you picked up on the detail of those like creative decisions that happen.
I see that in Alejandro too, because he is a very visually artistic person, and the way that your mind works is very beautiful, because even the words that you use, the way that you speak that's why I knew you'd be the perfect host to choose for George. Because I'm like, he's gonna have a good time with this one. I think you're going to be able to relate to her a lot.
Yeah.
I absolutely love just listening to, like, from beginning to end, each of the albums. Like, it really was just like an otherworldly experience. There was another one off of Lover. There was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Roman Candy? Roman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the name just feels, when you label a demo and then you're like, that's the name now.
Well, I'm so curious about that one though, because like it honestly, for me, maybe this is different for everybody else, but it took me to like this 90s sort of like MTV music video vibe while mixing it with like The Craft. So I wanted to see like some witchery going on. I don't know.
Yes, I love that. The witchery thing, definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely 90s.
What's your inspiration behind these songs that you write and the vision that you create for each song?
Yeah.
There's no sort of conscious inspiration behind the music itself. It's more a response to my experiences and to the world around me at any given time. And I think as when you're born as an artist, you're born with these ginormous emotions. And I think that's a part of it. I think that when you're born with that sort of big emotional experience, it's almost like you can't hold it in your body. It has to go somewhere or you'll actually go mad. And so I think it's the very, very taxing emotional experiences that actually lead to the best music. I feel like probably when I was younger, I think my subconscious would have been like seeking out those experiences to try and sort of, build the story and experience. And I guess it is. I guess you're in this body to experience as much as you can and to expand and to learn. And so you sort of leave no stone unturned. So I think as long as I'm operating from a place of alignment and authenticity, I think that's always the thing that I come back to. I'm like, okay, am I in alignment? Am I in my authentic place? And then the inspiration naturally comes from that place. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's very minimal conscious. I mean, when I do pop songwriting, I guess there's a little bit more, let's experiment with this genre and let's play with this. But I think that's more of a skill building exercise rather than it being that pure, because you have to have a balance of being able to receive the messages or being able to really channel whatever it is that's coming through, and having the skills to actually support that and to be able to. So when you first start something, you're like, I can't figure out how to say it, but I know what I want to say, but I don't. And that's when you don't have the skills yet to actually support the message that's coming through. So once you refine all of those skills, you can receive the message and transmute them and sort of transform them with each particular song, I think.
It's like you're a medium, the people that talk to ghosts, but like for music.
I know, it's really weird.
The music just talks to you.
It does, and it sounds a bit wild. I think that I'm like, oh yeah, it might sound a bit strange, but it's genuinely the experience that I have. And if anyone's welcome to film me in the studio and see that that's exactly what happens. It's sort of like la 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 la. Okay, we're good now.
I want to be a fly on the wall. If you ever have a studio session in LA and you can have a guest come, please
sure.
bring me. I would love to see that process.
You should come in on I was thinking about the most beautiful experience in the studio for someone to watch is actually a collaborative process. So when you've got multiple writers and producers, that's really beautiful to watch because there's so many conversations that happen. There's so many moments of magical connection there. It's really, I would imagine that would be a really incredible experience to watch. But someone just on their own, you just kind of look like a mad scientist.
I want to see both. I want to see both. I want to see you as a mad scientist by yourself and then the whole collaborative process.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Yeah.
I am curious though, as you're writing your new album, do you find yourself either gravitating towards specific themes or manifesting specific ideas in particular ways?
At the moment, so I started writing 2 weeks ago, and I start just I go blah. So I just, whatever comes out. And then I'll notice you just kind of have that intuitive feeling that that's right. This one's in the space, and this one's in the space, and this one's in the space. And then eventually you sort of end up with this tonality or a theme that is consistent, because so much of it is kind of a channel and it's unconscious. It's kind of in hindsight and in retrospect that you realize the themes and you realize what you were processing, or you've realized what you were inspired by. I had a conversation with a friend and we were talking about Paris the other day, and I had this desire to go to Paris, and I was talking to him and his experiences, and then I wrote something in the evening and I realized that I'd actually channeled his experience, because I could kind of pick up on what he was feeling and where he was going. And it's very strange. And it's a strange thing to intellectualize as well, because it is so kind of, it's not very, it's not very cerebral. So if things don't make sense, I apologize, but it's the themes are always in the editing process. I find, you know, you have the initial creative process, and then you have like the edit where you start to go, okay, what have we got here? What is this? And that's more of a logical brain, the intellectual brain kind of coming in and going, ooh, what is this? This is a little piece of work that represents mythology, or it represents like the muse, or it represents something, and you can kind of see where everything's come from. But at the time, it's purely just whatever's happening in my body, I guess.
That's cool.
That's really cool. I'm curious to where George Maple came from.
Yeah, it was just a name that popped into my head as like all the things. Yeah, it was.
I really like it. It just is
so,
it's so great. You know, it just is so you.
It is. It's just very strange. It's sort of just like all the things downloaded. And I asked my mum if she liked it. My mum has very good intuition, and she said, yes, that sounds very good. And then I realized that, you know, it's really important that it has no connotations, and there's actually no meaning behind it. So it's a canvas. So it was a completely blank canvas, so that I could create what that meant. And it was a place for me to explore parts of myself that I maybe wasn't comfortable before, like exploring under my real name, you know? Yeah. And then now it's just a part of me, I guess.
I love that you describe it as a canvas. That is amazing. I mean, what a way to own your own power and to say like, no, this is not fixed. This is going to transform. Let me go with it and label it as that's so cool. That's
oh good. I'm glad that sounds cool.
That answer was so much better than I feel like if someone told me their inspiration or like what was behind it. You know, that blank canvas is so beautiful, because then it gives you the freedom to do what you want with it and be who you want with it, and not just be confined to, well, George Maple because of this and this, and this is how I feel about it, because then you're confining yourself. But you're just like allowing yourself to be so free with that name. And I love that.
Yeah. Freedom is paramount with everything that we do creatively.
Yeah.
Artists, I think as artists, I think that's one of my fundamental values, is like complete freedom. And beyond just freedom, it's like wild expression, that ability to really go to the ends of the earth with your wildness. I think that's like very, very important, because that's where you find the magic. Otherwise you might miss something, and that the idea of missing something, just like, oh, that feels like a waste, you know. Freedom is wild freedom, very important.
But I'm just curious, like, what has been dating like while you're on this amazing journey as an artist?
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's always been integral to the writing process. I've always had my muses and my men and the destruction of relationships, and you can hear it in all the music, you know, it's all there. So it's very much a part of the process. I think as I've matured and grown, it's not that it's becoming less a part of the process, but I feel like my interests are expanding creatively more into the kind of into the subconscious, into the way that we process things. What's more conceptual, and I don't rely so heavily on those experiences. You know, I can speak with others and draw upon their experiences. I was actually thinking like I'm ready to start dating again. And so, yeah, I know, very exciting. But a part of that actually consciously was, well, I'm writing an album, so it would make sense for me to be open to these experiences. And now that I am more grown and I can do that from a conscious place, I'm excited to explore that, because I think, as we said, like in the past, it's just been chaos, and then I write stuff because the chaos happens. So yes, it's very integral. I think that my personal stories would be similar to anyone else's personal stories. It's just that I'm able to amplify them and dramatize them and put them into a medium.
All right, guys, before we continue with the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about Noom. Noom uses the latest in behavioral science to empower people to take control of their health for good through a combination of psychology, technology, and human coaching on their platform to help millions of users meet their personal health and wellness goals. A lot of people face pressures to change themselves to fit other people's expectations, and the more freeing solution is to find things that work for you. Noom understands that everyone's weight loss is unique, and what works for someone else doesn't mean it'll work for you. That's why Noom's approach adapts to your lifestyle. It's flexible and focuses on progress, not perfection, allowing you to work towards goals at a pace that's comfortable for you. Noom Weight makes it easy to start your weight loss journey and stay on track, with personalized lessons to help you gain confidence and practical knowledge, one-on-one coaching, and a cognitive behavioral approach that teaches you how to be mindful of your habits. So start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Sign up for your trial at noom.com/believe. Again, that's Noom, NOOM.com/believe, BLEAV.
So when I was talking to you and I met you at New Year's, we were giving a friend some advice. You've grown a lot from past experiences, and you had a lot of good things to say, just like very powerful things to say. And I just wanted to ask, like, how, your own self-love journey, like when I speak to you, it's very clear that you're in your power and you own your power and you love yourself, and you hold yourself in a high regard, as like a lot of people should do. That is the most powerful thing I think any man can do, especially women.
I'm glad that you included men there as well. I think it's really important that the conversation is open to both.
Super important since it is National Women's Month this month.
Yeah. Have you always been like this, or did you have to do a lot of work on yourself to become who you are mentally and just like internally?
I think I was really lucky because I was born with parents who are really, really loving. Generally, it's a really good start. My dad is incredibly kind, very confident, very self-assured. So I've always had the confidence, always had the self-assuredness from very young, and always kind of knowing what I wanted to. As I said, it was like it wasn't even an option. Like there was no other option for me than to do this, and to explore this journey as an artist. There just wasn't another option because everything else didn't feel right, and I didn't really try anything else. I just sort of knew that there was a reason that I had to do the things, but it definitely has been a journey to get to a place, and it is a never-ending journey. It's not by any means perfect. I'm hands down the biggest perfectionist in the world, so that was one of the things that I had to really work with and overcome. And I feel really grateful that I was given a career and a path that challenged the notion of perfectionism and control, and there were so many things that could go wrong and so many things that you can lose your cool over, and I've been put in so many situations over the last 10 years where I haven't acted in my best self, and I haven't been a good boss, and I've been out of my depth, and I've let my emotions get the better of me and whatever, and many times. But I've also, I think, and I hope that this is true, that I've taken stock of all of those times, and I've reflected, and I've gone inwards, and I've gone, okay, well, what is it within me like I feel like I have a responsibility if I'm in a position of leadership in any capacity, because I feel like you have to lead teams, and I have to, whether it's a film, like we did a live performance film, and I had a crew of like 45 people on that, and that, I was at the top and I was performing at the same time, and that's a big job to undertake. But I like those opportunities because they help me really step up to the plate, and I go, okay, I want to run this with in a way that I would be 100% proud of at the end of it. So not losing, not losing managing myself to be able to be better for others, with that being the intention, being a good role model, and being, I love working with younger artists and the rest of it. So anyway, long story short, that there have been many situations over the last 10 years where I did not love myself, 100% did not love myself. And yet those little parts of myself that are incredibly, have been in the past, incredibly insecure about my abilities, incredibly insecure about, my worth, like we all do. But I've spoken to those parts of myself, and I spend a lot of time doing, I don't know if you do a lot of like shadow work and sort of integration of these different parts of the psyche, and like really going into them and going like, what is my inner child saying, and how does she need to be talked to? Where does she fit in I call it the theater of experience that sits inside our subconscious. And there's so many different characters that make up that theater of experience. And I think coming to a place where I was like really, really honest and really open to all of these different characters in my psyche and allowing them to all sit at the table together and giving them attention helped me to genuinely love all of those parts of myself, because that's what it is. You can have the perception of self-love for a particular part of yourself, but then you've rejected this other part that you really, really don't like. And that happens because people tell us that those parts of ourselves, whether it's society, our parents, our friends, whatever, they're not acceptable. And then we've got these other parts that are very acceptable, so we amplify them. So a big part of my journey to come to a place where now I feel pretty confident. I'm still working like anyone, but pretty confident with where I'm at now. And it has been truly just embracing all of those parts of myself, even when I'm like, oh, that's really ugly. I really don't like that. But going, okay, why don't you like it? And then looking at it and saying, okay, what do you need? What does that part of myself need? And it's like, usually it's just like, we just need to be seen. And then you're like, okay, I'll let you be seen. And then suddenly you feel this like weight lift off you, and you feel this, I don't know, it's like this peace that kind of comes from knowing that you're a complex being, and that you are full of light and dark, and you're full of complexities, and you've made mistakes, and you haven't been the best person that you were meant to be. And there's some peace that comes from really accepting all of those parts and moving into a place of like, I always love the idea of just striving, like genuinely striving to be better as well, like striving to know more about yourself, striving to be kinder, striving to be more aware of other people, striving, those things are important. The same way that we set goals for our careers and we want to, achieve certain things, I think those goals emotionally are really important as well. So that's kind of like how I got to the place that I'm at now. It's very nice that it feels that way on the other end, because that's important to me too.
Well, 2 questions. Will you be my therapist? And also fix me.
I have been doing therapy for a while as well. That's been really helpful.
Second question, have you considered writing a book about this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Because I think you should.
Really?
Not to add any more onto your already very full plate, but
I mean,
yes.
Sure. I feel like if I did that, it's interesting. So I've got a friend of mine and I are working on putting together, and it's not really top secret, but we're building an artist foundation in Australia that is a foundation, like a non-for-profit foundation for protection, preservation, and prosperity of the arts in Australia. Very big job, and it will be incredible. But one thing I realized about that process was how much easier it is when you have another person there kind of asking questions, or both of you asking questions. So I think if there was a book in the works at some point, it would have to be in collaboration. So maybe we can do it together.
I would be so down.
We could do that. That would be fun.
Yes.
It'd be quite like healing as well. There's also like, I had a friend of mine that when I was going through a really bad breakup, him and I used to basically DM one another, just, when you just need to do a brain dump of all the things that you're feeling and you need a safe space to do that. We used to text one another, and we'd sometimes it'd take like 24 hours to read it, but it was like this knowing that we just had this place where we could put everything, and it helped us because we both processed things in that way. We needed to talk about it. We needed to write it down. So we created this safe space to do that. So that could be a good starting point. That's how it all starts. Just we call it the
well, it was a okay, I think it is time to get into the letter portion. Dear Damsels, can I just say that I'm glad that you're adding more topics for season 3 outside of dating. I've been struggling to find what I'm passionate about, and I don't even know where to start. I'm about to graduate high school, and I have no plans for further education. As expected, my parents are going to be kicking me out once I'm done with school. I change my mind about what I want to do at least once a week. I'm really creative, and I know that I want to be in the entertainment industry, but I just don't know what it is that is going to make me happy. How do I find out what career I'm going to be happy in and also make a decent living at the same time? Do I go to college and rack up student loans instead? How do I manifest something when I don't even know what I want? Thanks. Struggling to find myself.
Boom. Wow. I can speak to the student loans thing. I mean, I definitely still have student debt from undergrad, which, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, part of the American experience at this point.
Yeah.
But what I loved about, I guess, what I learned through all of that is that, you know, in that during that time, I was also confused about what I wanted to do with my life, and fortunately, fortunately, I always had writing to rely on as like my own like form of therapy and also form of expression. And now, like looking back, it's like years later, I'm still involved in publishing, and I love books, and it's just kind of what always stuck. And it's kind of like what, yeah, ever since my childhood, I have always found a love of reading. So I think like one thing for this letter writer to keep in mind is to really dig into those things that have made them happy for always, not just, you know, what's a nice quick escape. It's just like, no, like what has been of interest for a long time, because I think that can really provide a lot of teachable moments in terms of where the creative direction is supposed to go or where the next job is supposed to be. I mean,
Yeah. Like, I did the whole college thing too, and I think it was great because I was able to build these life experiences socially and meet people. I think that was the only great part about it, and learning how to be, not living with parents, or you just being independent. Basically, it definitely helped with that. But I don't think it was for me. I think it was definitely a waste of money, because I didn't even end up doing the thing that I studied. Um, I think if you know that you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and the career that you want to go into requires a degree and requires further education, then go for it. But if you're just doing it because, you just don't know what you want to do and maybe that'll help you, I don't know if that's the answer for you. I would just say student loans are a pain in the butt and you don't want to rack that up. So if you know that you're creative, maybe go like intern, go and shadow people. If you think you want to be in an actor, take an acting class and see if this is what really speaks to you. If you want to be in music, shadow a musician, follow them around, go to studios and see how they record. I think there's other ways outside of university to find what works for you.
I want
Definitely.
to add too, like the concern of money. Yes, that is a very real thing. But when you're trying to find out what makes you happy or what's gonna give you that fulfillment, like that's kind of secondary. The whole
Yeah.
money, financial stuff. It's like really got to dig in. But George, what?
Yeah. I was gonna say, and you're gonna be poor anyway. Like that part of your life is like that's when you're meant to be poor,
Right.
Like spend that time, spend the 2 years. Wait, even take like I kept thinking when you guys were talking, also traveling and exploring other worlds of creativity. Like go to Paris, go to London, go to New York, go to the hubs, the creative hubs of the world, and see how things are done, and meet people, and talk to people, and just do, as you said, follow what makes you genuinely happy, and like keep looking at that and be like, ooh, do I feel this, like, ooh, this when I do this thing, or when I'm around these kinds of people, and eventually the puzzle pieces will come together, I feel. But like using it consciously, taking like 2 years, it's like what I say with my young artists. I go, just explore for 6 months, like just write whatever, it doesn't matter. There's no rule. This is the time when you're at the beginning of your journey. It's the time to be like a poor struggling artist that can just like make things and have strange experiences and make mistakes, and that's really, really important. I think the same goes for any sort of creative journey that is beginning.
And I wonder what both of you think about like setting a time frame or like a deadline on things. I feel like that's often, well, I know that's what I did before, where I have to achieve XYZ by this year or this date or whatever. And like I also think that not doing that is really, really important when you're in this like exploratory phase. What do you both think?
Yeah, I think well, they are being kicked out right when they graduate. So
Oh,
I feel like
there's
it's
the timeline. Never mind.
yeah, there has to be some sort of timeline, unless your parents do let you just stay in their house for free or pay them a little bit at least. Here, rent sucks. You're not going to be able to find a place without a job, without any money.
Yeah.
So I think if you do have that kind of urgency to get out of the house, you're going to be getting out of the house, then find friends to crash with, get a job, any job that will, yeah, it's going to be shitty, but if you want to be in this entertainment industry, you're going to have to work shitty jobs. Everyone does that. You know, it's part of the whole process. Unless you were born into it. But yeah, if there's no time, no urgency, then sure, you know, take that time to figure out what you want to do and use your time, your creative time, like the way that you want to use it. But for this person, I don't know.
Yeah, but it also could be like sometimes what I'll recommend to younger artists is that they give it, so there's this balance between timeline and freedom. So it's this idea that you actually allow yourself a year of freedom where you go, my 100% goal throughout this year is to just go blah and to have a shitty job and to run around and to travel and to do whatever. And then like you sort of have a meeting with yourself in a year and you go, how are we going? Where do we feel like this is going? But it's like allowing yourself that craziness in a parameter. That's quite effective. I find it's really effective for my younger artists, but it's obviously also really different for everyone because everyone has a different personality and things that some people need more structure, some people need less and whatever. So I guess probably also learning what you actually do need and what you like in the way that you like to live, because that will influence your decisions on career as well.
Yeah. You know what? I would love to be in the letter writer's predicament, you know, because you're so young, you're 17, 18. I wish that I knew what you know about yourself right now. You don't know what exactly makes you happy or where exactly you want to do, but you know that, you know, maybe college isn't for you and you shouldn't go into something that you're going to rack up. You're questioning stuff, which is good. I never questioned anything. My parents were like, you're going to doctor, lawyer, engineer, business, pick one, you're going to college. Like no option. No, I didn't have an option. So I went into something that I was so miserable in. I was failing school because I shouldn't have been in school in the first place. And then years later, I had to discover myself. So it's actually really cool that at this age, at 18, 17, you're able to like know that, you know, and be aware of like, okay, I know that this is the industry that I want to be in. How can I, and you're being proactive. You're writing to us. You're getting advice from George Maple, from Alejandro, and people who are in this industry already. So you're doing everything right by asking you're asking the right questions for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, the fearlessness is definitely important during this time frame for sure.
Yeah, and I was the same way. I mean, I am the same. I am the same way. My interests change so quick. One day I'll be into like candle making and then make a whole Instagram page about it. Like this could be a cool business. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I'm good. I'm kind of bored of that. I want to try something else, which is just, it's annoying, but that's, you know, you got to embrace it because it's cool that a lot of different things interest you. It's a cool thing to have. But stick to those interests.
I love what you're describing as far as just diving in and like committing, and it doesn't matter how long it lasts, just seeing what
exploring. It's so important. Just trying stuff.
Definitely.
Being a bit of a kid. Well, being a kid. Like, I mean, that's like something we can all learn from, I think. Just try stuff, talk to people, meet people, be open to things, you know. Absolutely. Simplify.
Well, George, this has been so amazing to talk to you, and like you have been so open with us. Basically, you've opened your whole mind to us, and like you're like, come in, let me show you what's going on in here. So thank you so much for being so amazing as always. Oh
my God!
Need you to come to LA as soon as possible.
I know. I like you're making, every time I see an image of LA or a person who I love in LA, my whole heart just goes, I'm like, I need to, I'll be back soon. I'm gonna get on a plane really soon. Yeah.
Please.
Can you tell our listeners where they can or how they can keep up with you?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, visually, I always love Instagram just because it's like, I think of it like a portfolio, and it's George Maple Official. And then I guess Spotify is where the music is, or all streaming platforms, like all the things. Yeah.
Well, good luck with this next album. Listeners, please go listen to George's music because it does speak to your soul, and it's just amazing. And you're going to recognize some of them or a lot of them for sure, because I've been hearing your stuff everywhere, and it's just a daily reminder that I miss you and you need to come here. It's a sign. So just get your butt to LA as soon as you can.
I seriously will. Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been such a beautiful, open conversation. Thank you.
Well, guys, this was another episode of Damsels in the DMs.
Until next time.
Going down in the DMs. Bye.
Bye.
DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.